to the Pulse of Spokane. Join us for the latest in news, views, and conversation with community leaders. The Pulse of Spokane is brought to you in part by Homes for You, Well Dressed Walrus, and Spokane Firefighters Local 29. Now, put your finger on the Pulse of Spokane.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Pulse of Spokane. I was gone a little bit last week. I was directing a children's musical, but I'm excited to be back in the studio. We have a really exciting lineup. Kenn Nesbitt is here. He's going to talk about the 20-some books that he's written, his book Inspiration, and all of the poetry projects that he's been up to recently. And then we're going to hear from Erin Peterson from the Spokane Culinary Arts Guild. She's going to give us some summer food ideas. I know you maybe have the kids home for the summer, and what are some quick and easy meals that you can make for them, as well as some upcoming events that they have. And then we're going to hear from Kris Maynard from Glucose Revival. He's got a really, really interesting product that I want you to hear about. It's great for diabetics and athletes that you're going to want to hear about. It has to do with glucose and low blood sugar levels. And then at the end of the program, we have a special appearance from Patsy Cline herself from Spokane Valley Summer Theater. Andrea Olsen is here as Patsy Cline, and they're talking about their production, Always Patsy Cline, that closes this weekend. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned for all of that and more. We'll be right back.
The economy is getting stronger. Banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.
Welcome to a new kind of talk show, Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversations that include respect for opinions, facts, and diversity.
Spokane Talks, Saturdays at 8 a.m. on Fox 28.
O'Brien Logistics would like to invite you to try our local and regional transportation services. With Sprinter vans, lift gates, hot shot flatbeds, and expedited services, our people are ready to step in and help with your transportation needs. Our services are 24/7, 365, and we are trained and prepared to handle air cargo and Canadian shipments. Give us a call at 208-305-2311 or visit our website at o'brienlogistics.net. That's OBRIEN logistics.net.
Okay, so we are back with Kenn Nesbitt. And Kenn, you are a children's poet.
That's right.
Here in Spokane.
Yes.
And, you know, I was on Wikipedia the other day, and I was researching famous people from Spokane, Washington. Mm-hmm. And your name was under the list of famous authors from our city. And
I'll be sure to go and delete that.
I'll be sure. No, but I thought it was really neat. And you are an amazing author. You've written so many children's books, and we have many of them here today, but you've written many more than this even. How many books have you written?
I think I've written 23 books and, 24 because I have one coming out later this year.
That's exciting. And do you know what it's going to be called yet? Can we know?
Sure. So I'm working on a series for beginning readers. So really aimed at first grade, and the series is called Pup and Duck, and it's about a puppy and a duckling that are best friends, and about the troubles that they have getting along sometimes.
That's really neat. And so this will be geared at first graders, at that kind of entry reading level?
Yes, possibly even kindergarten.
Very neat, very neat. That's exciting. And, you know, so you've written 23 books. Obviously, you've been through kind of the publisher process and the illustration process. What does that all look like? And how kind of intense and intimidating is it to, release your first book?
I wouldn't call it intimidating. It's actually quite exciting to release your first book. But it's a slog to get your second book published because
really,
sure, it's the sophomore slump, right? If your first book doesn't take off, then it's just as much work to get a second book published, sometimes even more, because now publishers can look at your sales and say, he doesn't sell all that much. Maybe we better look for a different author.
Sure. And you mentioned that when your first book came out in 2001,
Right.
it was just a few weeks before 9/11.
That's correct.
And you also mentioned that maybe that wasn't the best time to have, humor in America. Americans weren't necessarily very open
Right.
and willing to laugh at that moment in history. So what was that like? Because obviously you didn't anticipate 9/11 would happen, 2.5 weeks later.
No, of course not. It was very, very exciting to get my first book published, and I was very excited. And then a couple of weeks later, the whole country just went into a funk, right? And nobody was out going, "Hey, I want to buy a funny book for my kids."
Right.
We had other things on our. But you never know.
And did that delay, for you, kind of when you were going to release your next book? Did you say, okay, I'm going to wait a while?
No.
Maybe we're not ready for this.
No, my second book was the same publisher.
Okay.
And it was about a year later they came back and they said, "Hey, could you write an entire book of just funny poems about elementary school?"
Okay.
And I said, "Sure, of course I can do that." And so they wanted, say, 50 poems, so I wrote 100 for them.
Wow.
So they could just pick out the ones that they liked the best. And then that book came out in 2004. That was called When the Teacher Isn't Looking.
And how long does it take you to come up with 100 poems? Because I can tell you, just for me, writing one poem would probably take a solid week, and it still wouldn't be very good. So, I mean, what is that? What kind of time frame are we talking about?
Well, it takes me, on average, about 2, 3, 4 hours to write a single poem.
Okay.
So if you do that every day,
Sure.
you can write 100 poems in 5 months.
Okay.
6 months, something
Okay.
like that.
And I would imagine, too, as you've written so many,
Mhm.
it probably gets easier, does it?
The writing does get easier,
Okay.
but sometimes I challenge myself to write something that's a little bit more complex, a little bit more difficult. And then sometimes I just, it's like doodling, just whittle
And
them
do you
out.
find that, you start writing something and you're like, wait, I think I've written something very similar to this before. Very similar idea.
Oh, no, actually quite the opposite. What I do is sometimes I go, well, I can't think of anything to write. Well, I'll just look and see what I've written before. Okay, now I'll write the opposite of that. Or here's another way to write that, or something like that. So I use my own body of work as a wellspring for ideas for future work as well.
That's really neat. Okay, so I'm very curious about this. When you're talking to kids today, you might hear them say, I want to be a doctor, or I want to be a firefighter, or I want to be a dentist, or I want to be a teacher, or whatever that is. But it's not often that you hear young kid say, I want to be a children's poet.
Oh.
So I can't imagine that from a very young age you wanted to be a children's poet. So what got you into this? And
No, in fact, the first thing I remember wanting to be was as a teenager in high school. I realized I had an affinity for computers.
Okay.
And I taught myself to program, and eventually I wound up becoming a professional software developer. I worked for Microsoft for a couple of years.
Wow.
I ran my own software company. And during that time, I started writing children's poetry as a hobby. It was really just to entertain myself. I always liked funny poems and funny songs as a kid. And when I started writing them, I realized that it was a lot of fun. It was a great hobby to have.
Sure.
So I never intended to become an author. I simply wrote for my own entertainment, to amuse my friends. But when I first sent 50, 60 poems off to a publisher that I knew published books of funny children's poetry, they called me up and they said, we love your poems and we want to publish them. And next thing you know, I was an author. And so I sort of fell into it accidentally. You do something that you love long enough and eventually you succeed at it.
That's great. And where do you get your book inspiration? Are they just kind of everyday things? You might see a billboard and you're like, oh, that's funny. I could write a poem about that.
Pretty much, yeah. I look around, I say, wow, what do I see around here? Oh, there's a wagon. I think I'll write a poem about a wagon. Here's a cup of coffee. I'll write something about that. There's an iPad. Let's write an iPad poem.
And do you have a goal for yourself? And do you say, I'm going to write 2 poems this week?
Yes. Yes. At
Okay.
an absolute minimum, I must write at least one poem a week.
Wow. Okay.
But 2 is better.
Yeah.
That's 100 poems a year.
Sure.
And then sometimes I'm under deadline, right? So publisher says, well, we need 20 poems by this time.
By yesterday.
Yes, exactly. Just 3 weeks ago, a publisher wrote to me and they said, we are writing a book series for first and second grade on how to write, how to do various things, and we want a book called How to Write a Great Poem, and it has to be this many words, and it has to be at this reading level, and here are the chapters we envision, but we need it by the 24th of June. That's today?
Yes.
Yes. I submitted it last Thursday. So
wow.
Sometimes that's the way it works.
And is that a challenge for you to all of a sudden write at a reading level that you think is appropriate for, let's say, a kindergartner or a first grader? I would think that would be a major challenge in itself.
Everything is a challenge when you don't know how to do it. Mm-hmm. But, I've spent years, everything I write, I run it through various computer algorithms to examine the reading level, and I know what a first grader can read. I know what a second grader can read, and so forth. And so,
you've been doing it long enough.
I've been doing it long enough that I can say absolutely I can write you 1,300 words at a first grading reading level on this topic, and I can make it interesting and engaging and funny.
That's great.
Yeah.
And Ken, where can people order your books? Where can they find you, learn more about you? Do you have a website?
I do have a website. It is called poetry4kids.com, and that's with the numeral 4. And it is the most visited children's poetry website on the internet.
Wow.
If people wanted to order my books, they can, of course, go to my website, and that will link them to Amazon, to IndieBound. But since we are here in Spokane, they can get my books at Auntie's Bookstore downtown. Auntie's often has autographed copies of my books.
Cool.
You can also get them, of course, at Barnes & Noble or anywhere you get your books.
That's great. And they are so funny. And as the kids are home this summer, it's a really great time to do that summer reading and kind of enjoy and grow that love of reading with your kids. So I encourage you to do that. And Ken, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Collin.
It's fun to learn more about your process. And when we come back, we're going to be with Erin Peterson from the Spokane Culinary Arts Guild. We've got some summer food ideas for you. We'll be right back.
Well, this is Looms Day in Spokane. We got about 40 firefighters and their friends and family handing out 40,000 cups of water as the day goes by.
It's a very good opportunity to see the public and support them and help them out and cheer them on during Blooms Day.
It's one of the best things about Spokane is that we have these major events and the whole community comes together not just to participate but to volunteer and show that they really care about our city and making our city look great.
This type of an event really is emblematic of Spokane because so many people get involved. We have 50,000 people probably running this race. Always has been a very huge event.
Right now we're at the corner of Broadway and Nettleton. It's the last water station before the finish, so people are pretty much dehydrated by the time they get to us. They really need our water.
The water stations are a vital part, especially on warm days like today. It's real important that we have the volunteers to help with that. Without the volunteers, Blooms Day wouldn't exist.
All up and down the course, there are people that are involved in this celebration. It really is a celebration of what Spokane's all about.
I'm Nikki Butler, and I'm a regional manager for STCU. My lunch buddy is Nicole.
I'm Brandy Schloss. I'm a regional manager at STCU. My lunch buddy is Angelina. She's grown up with me. I've grown up with her. To see her graduate will be a lot of fun.
Brandy and I have been lunch buddies since the girls were in second grade. It's great that STCU provides me with the opportunity to be part of Reach for the Future. We are committed to the children. We're committed to our community. I'm Nikki.
I'm Brandy.
And STCU is here for good.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Okay, so Erin Peterson is with us from the Spokane Culinary Arts Guild. And Erin, we are talking everything summer, everything food. And, as the kids are home from school this summer, what are some fun, easy meals that we can make at home this summer?
Well, because I'm home with my kids all summer long, and they're almost teenagers, so they can eat a lot.
Right.
I always have to think ahead when I go to the grocery store, so I get lots of different options. I make things like flatbread pizzas, and you can throw them on the grill if it heats your house up too much. We like to chop everything up when we get home from the store.
Okay.
Because it encourages them to eat fresher foods more often.
Right.
And you can just put them in little glass containers, store them in the refrigerator, and you can pull them out and have something ready to go at a moment's notice. Tacos, anything that you can assemble right at the table with your kids is always better because they have a little autonomy. If they can put something on their plate, they're way more likely to eat it than if you were to put it on their plate for them.
And that's really interesting because I notice that so many people will go to the grocery store and they'll pick out some of those healthier options. Maybe it's, a whole thing of lettuce or what have you, and they'll put it in the fridge, and then it might not get used. Because that in itself takes some prep. You've got to wash the lettuce. You might, there's prep that goes into creating that into something else. So if you take it right home and you say, I'm going to chop this up, I'm going to do something with it, I'm going to bag it, I'm going to put it in glass containers, I would be much more willing to eat it. So that makes perfect sense to me.
It's so much easier when you work in batches. Like any good cook, they always do that first. The prep is the most important part. And when you have that all ready to go and you have a couple ideas in mind, you can be much more creative with your cooking at home and you'll enjoy it so much more too.
That's great. And do you have any other favorite summer meal ideas?
Oh my goodness, you need to make use of your grill. Grill all the vegetables, grill all the fruits. It's amazing what that Maillard reaction will do. When you get something crispy and brown, it changes the flavor so much. And being outside when you're cooking makes it feel less like work and more like fun. And you can get the whole family involved. I think that getting a chance to really experiment a little bit and throw different things together. We have a book called The Flavor Bible, and that is probably my number one reference for any time I make something myself at home. Because you can look at what flavors go with other things. So if you have a lot of blueberries, say you happen to have blueberry bushes or you just got a bunch from the store, you can look up what flavors go with that and add some things to the dish that maybe would make it a little fresher and unexpected, like mint goes beautifully with blueberries. We really like to do a lot of cooking in the Instant Pot over the summer too.
Yeah.
So batch prep your meats in advance. Get some shredded pork going so that you can make, oh my gosh, any number of things. You can do a really great pozole. So that's, it's an easy prep ahead soup. And it feels a lot more refreshing because you can add toppings like avocado or some tortilla strips, a little salsa, and then it feels more festive.
That's great. And, I think too, and you mentioned this, when you're doing things on the grill in the summer, you don't realize how much cooler it does keep your house, not using the ovens, not using the stove. And especially here in the Inland Northwest during the hot summer months, that is a huge benefit.
And you'll be the envy of the neighborhood, let's be honest. You smell that through the air. It's like a cartoon character wafting towards you. You'll have friends come over that you maybe hadn't made before. But the kids really get excited to eat too when they see what a celebratory process it can be. I think that's probably one of the things that if a parent is very intentional about how they prepare their food with a joyful heart, it changes the dining experience. A chopped salad is also great during the summer. Because when you do all that prep ahead, you can just mix and match all kinds of different ingredients and make something truly special. I actually am like a really dedicated menu reader. I'm addicted to reading really great menus. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but if you look at the local restaurants that we have here, there are so many fabulous options, and you can get inspired by what they're making too and try to make something that's very close to that at home.
That's really neat. And tell us a little bit about some upcoming things at the Spokane Culinary Arts Guild. You guys do some incredible things, and I think you have some upcoming events. Am I correct?
We do.
Okay.
The first one that's coming up in October is called the Our Side Summit, And it's intended to be a hospitality summit that is all about learning around the culinary arts. So we have a variety of guest speakers, from farmers to chefs to people who work in the hospitality industry, all to highlight the challenges and the successes that they have in their field of work. It'll be interactive, so guests will be able to eat some different, really creative, beautifully prepared dishes by local chefs. And we really can't wait to show it off to everyone. It'll be October 18th.
Okay.
And that is actually on the Guild's website, SpokaneCulinaryArtsGuild.com, under events. So our events section has so many wonderful local activities that we will be featuring on our social media and on our blog. And the other is actually not going to happen until next year, and it's our annual awards gala.
Okay.
And that's probably the most exciting event that we do all year. Every chef and every front of house gets all dressed up, and they come together and get to meet with all of the different people who support them, patrons of the restaurants.
Sure.
And so you get to rub shoulders with the famous chefs in town like Chad White and Jeremy Hansen, people that we respect a great deal. And we get to honor the best of the best in our area. We aren't funded in any way by any promotional types of posts, and that enables us to be freer to really evaluate restaurants on their merit. So every year, we get together all of our different tastemakers, is what we call them. We have 50 of them that go out and evaluate restaurants all around the city.
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty incredible people. And so far this year, we've spent over $50,000 collectively in restaurants around the city supporting locally owned, family-owned restaurants.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so we'll get to honor those best of the best at the Davenport Hotel, and we're working closely with them this year.
That's very exciting. Erin, thanks so much for joining us. Summer is just a great time to really enjoy the grill, to spend some time making some fun summer recipes. And it's also just a beautiful time to be outside.
It really is.
I don't think we realize sometimes how lucky we are. Go away for a little while and then come back, especially during the summer months here. You'll appreciate it a lot more. Erin,
I wouldn't want to live anywhere else.
I wouldn't either. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
and when we
you.
come back, we're going to be with Kris Maynard from Glucose Revival. He's got a really special invention that's going to help a lot of diabetics and athletes. We'll be right back.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and a description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
The economy is getting stronger. Banks are lending again, and interest rates are at historic lows. Now is a great time to buy your dream home. The caring and knowledgeable professionals at Homes for You have been helping people just like you for over 20 years. They take the time to listen to what you want and will help you find just the right home in Washington or Idaho. Real estate is what we do at Homes for You, 928-5782, or visit online at homes4uspokane.com.
Okay, so especially with diabetics and athletes, if you get low blood sugar levels, what do? You know, sometimes you're in situations where it's not convenient. You're at like wrong time, wrong place scenario. And so, Kris, you've invented something that started as an idea about 3 years ago. And tell us about what it is today and what that process was like. What do we have in front of us?
Well, in the simplest forms, it's a medical alert necklace that contains the same solution that we as EMTs use for the most common emergency that diabetics face.
Okay.
So it's something that's easily within reach. We recommend that all diabetics continue to take what they normally take for low blood sugars. Low blood sugars can come up at any point in one's life that has diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2. And so this just makes it easy for a family member to be able to help, a friend, or the diabetic themselves.
Sure. And so basically we have a necklace that is a tubing, right? And diabetics can wear it, athletes can wear it. And what's inside of it, though?
Yeah, well, it's a fast-acting glucose gel. There's many gels that are out there, but we have formulated this by taking a lot of the additives out that slows the absorption rate down. And so we've made a glucose gel that is just fast-acting so the diabetic can really get back to normal state of mind in the quickest way they can.
And have you noticed that this has helped you? You mentioned that you're diabetic yourself and that you kind of just started this whole thing as an idea. So what is this? How much of a help has this been to you and others?
Well, the biggest fear that most diabetics have is just being active, because that can bring about a low blood sugar.
Sure.
And so this, helps me just be able to live an active life, and that's what we wanted to be able to provide for any diabetic, because the big picture of in the health world for a diabetic is
Sure.
staying active and staying involved and living life how one wants to live. So that just allows that. It's useful for me on simple being able to go running,
Right.
or playing any type of sport.
Sure. No, that's great. And where can people find this? Is it out on the market yet? Where are we kind of at in that process?
Yeah, well, and this is a process that we've been working for in the last 3 years.
Okay.
We just kicked off and got it live on our website, glucoserevival.com. It's on Amazon, and so we're out there. It's available for diabetics now.
That's great. And have you noticed any athletic teams, or are people starting to gain interest in this, or is it relatively new that people aren't necessarily maybe very familiar with it yet?
Well, it is a new device. We have a patent on this, so it's something that's never been seen before. But I've had parents of athletes reach out to me to where I've been able to go to their home state and help them with emergency low blood sugars. I've gone to California. I'm going to North Carolina tomorrow to be able to help in the process, to help educate diabetics, and to also be able to show them this device, because there's sport players out there. There's a Texas mom that just reached out to me that is afraid for her son who plays college football. And for him to be able to just rip it off in a quick fashion and take what they have on him, because he doesn't want to go off onto the sidelines and miss playtime.
Sure. And you can insert it right there,
Correct.
right? Yeah, and that's really invaluable. That's incredible. How did you really get into this? Did you ever think that you would go into something very business-like in this fashion, or have an idea or invention like this?
No, not at all. I love firefighting. That was always my passion. When I started going running and having low blood sugars, and I made something for myself, and my doctor saw it and thought this was what a simple idea that can help
Right.
so many people. That's where my passion really flooded into diabetics as a whole, is if it's a way that I can help them, I wanted to.
Sure. And Kris, where can people find you? Where can they learn more about this? Where could they purchase the product? What's your website?
It's glucoserevival.com.
Okay.
It's on Amazon. It'll be available on Prime real soon. So
That's exciting.
Yeah, we're excited on where it's going and who it can help. Because again, we want all diabetics to live an active life
Right.
and not have that worry.
Sure. Kris, this is incredible. And to know that you're from Spokane is pretty special as well. And I see this becoming a really big thing and helping a lot of people. Thanks for coming on and talking about it. And when we come back, we're going to be with Patsy Cline. She's going to give us a sneak peek into the show Always Patsy Cline at Spokane Valley Summer Theater. This weekend, they have a performance as soon as Wednesday. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is River Ridge Frame Shop, called Frame It Today, where we can take your art, customize it, and get it ready to hang on the wall. Here at River Ridge Hardware, 2803 West Garland.
Welcome to Tom Sawyer Country Coffee.
Tom Sawyer Country Coffee only roasts the finest organic coffee for our signature blends.
Enjoy a cup at our coffee shop and local businesses and organizations across the region.
I'm Tom Sawyer, and we choose the Pacific Northwest. Welcome to a new kind of talk show, Spokane Talks, where you find news, views, and conversations that include respect for opinions, facts, and diversity.
Spokane Talks, Saturdays at 8 a.m. on Fox 28.
right, we're back with Miss Patsy Cline.
Howdy.
And Louise Sager.
Yes.
And for those of you that don't know, Patsy Cline's best friend.
Yes.
Started as one of her fans, actually, Louise Sager. And so this is a show, Always Patsy Cline, at Spokane Valley Summer Theater at University High School this summer. And you guys just opened this weekend.
We did. We had a great opening weekend.
That's fabulous.
Nice houses, and the show went well, and we had a wonderful review. So
Great.
that's super. So
And tell us a little bit about the show, because I think obviously people are very familiar with Patsy's music. I think there's like 20-some songs of hers in the musical.
27 songs that she sings. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it is amazing, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with Andrea, how much she sounds like Patsy Cline. It's actually kind of gives me goosebumps. But tell us a little bit about the story and the relationship between Louise and Patsy, because I think that's something that people aren't necessarily very familiar
really
with.
Sweet. And actually, I'm going to let Haliey tell it, because she does a good job telling that story. So go ahead.
So this whole musical is kind of based off these letters that Louise Sager wrote back and forth with Patsy Cline. And what happened was Patsy came to her hometown of Houston, and she was performing there, and Louise went to watch her, and they ended up
hanging out
and talking all night, and became really good friends. And they started talking to each other through letters when Patsy was on the road. And it's kind of neat because Louise wasn't the first one to reach out. It was
Patsy wrote the first letter.
Yeah,
which is really
Patsy
sweet.
wrote the first letter. So it follows Patsy's life, and then Louise kind of narrates the story and kind of gives you context for where you're at, and it just shows this beautiful blossoming friendship that these women had, and they shared so many similarities, even though, Patsy was a star and Louise was just this normal woman from Houston, but they had so many similarities with divorces and children, and just these heartaches and things that they went through that they could talk about, and they were just so blessed to meet one another. And
I think they really needed each other, whether they realized it or not. I think Patsy was able to sort of vent her frustrations with her own life, and she found a kindred spirit in feeling like she, Patsy was married, but she felt like she really was doing all the work of raising the kids. And Louise also had been single momming it at the time. So they kind of needed each other at the time. It was the right place at the right time, the right person.
Yes. And it's very special too, because the show's title, Always ... Patsy Cline.
Yes.
That's how Patsy signed her letters.
Right.
Yes.
And I think people, I don't know that anyone, or most people, I don't think most people know that.
No.
And that's kind of a special little touch too. It's her kind of trademark, if you will.
It is.
And obviously Patsy's life ended very tragically at a young age.
Correct.
But I think she would still have such stardom.
I think so, and she died when she was 30, and she just had barely sort of broken into the business, and she was a real trailblazer for her time as a female country singer. She was sort of surrounded by these male stars, and there were women that really wanted to break into that, but she was the first one that really did so, and successfully. But she was always concerned about her children, and that came first. And it's actually mentioned several times in the show. But she really just wanted to make a good life, but she loved to sing, and you can see that I did extensive research on her, even her mannerisms, even just the phrases that she says. I tried to incorporate those as much as possible, but she always is talking about just having a better life than she had, giving her children a better life than she had, and that's really all she wanted. But she just wanted to be a country western singer. But if you read the interviews with people that performed with her and that listened to her sing, she really was extremely talented, and she could have sung anything she wanted to, and truthfully she did. If you look back at some of the songs, some of them are like rock and roll songs. Some
Right.
of them are gospel pieces. Some of them, of course, are country. But she really kind of spanned the genre gap. She could have done any style. She did do any style. But that business was really tough and really sort of clamped down. Surrounded by men, so I think that there's a lot of female fans that follow her, not only for her music, but also the type of person that she was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And something that I think too is really, really neat is that Patsy's life and her legacy, while today she has an older generational following.
Absolutely.
I was surprised when I went to the show that I actually knew many of the songs.
Right.
And I don't think that's uncommon. I don't think I'm the only one with that story.
No, you're absolutely right. I think, you hear a song and you don't realize that Patsy sang it. A great example is the song Crazy, which of course almost everybody knows, and it's one of her top songs. But Willie Nelson actually wrote that song, and he was going to sing it, but there was something about the lyrics that he said, I don't think a man would sing this. Give it to Patsy. And so Patsy sang it, but Willie Nelson, of course, did sing it afterwards. But these are songs that there's so much emotion, and that's the other thing that Patsy Cline really was so lauded for, was that you felt everything she was feeling, and she was really good at sort of pulling at your heartstrings and telling the story, and that's part of it. That's actually sort of the overarching idea of the whole show, is that it does pull at your heartstrings. It really just, you think about two friends and then suddenly losing that person that you've pretty much confided everything to.
And while it kind of takes you through the friendship,
absolutely,
and the tragic events that happen, there's also incredible humor in the show, which is really special. And I think, as an audience member, it makes you feel so included and so tied in and drawn into that relationship, which is really special, and that doesn't happen in every show.
Well, and you think about a musical, it's still a musical, so it has to sort of bring the audience in. It's not like being at a concert, although there are some aspects that are like being at a live concert. But you, as in that musical theater realm, you have to sort of pace the story, and it's well written in that when there's something heavy, when there's something sad or something that could, weigh you down emotionally, it turns right around, and there's something fun-loving and light-hearted to sort of bring you back up to, laughing and seeing and it reflects life in that way. I mean, it's we have our ups and downs always, and Louise really brought that out, I think, in Patsy. I think Patsy felt this sort of weight of responsibility to provide. Yeah. And Louise, Haliey is Louise. She just is that fun-loving in real life, and she just brings that out in Patsy, not only on stage but off stage too. You just have such a great relationship off stage, which is fun. But I think you feel that as an audience member. You really see the relationship, and we've had several comments about that it's like you could tell that that Louise and Patsy were dear friends, but it reflects what's happening backstage too, which is
and it's
very
funny because
sweet.
we don't really interact with each other much on stage. We have probably 2 scenes together the whole play, because she sings, and then I create narration, and I create
have a costume change.
Yes, and while I'm talking, she's usually in the curtain changing.
That's true.
Yeah, she has
27 songs, 11 costume changes.
Wow.
And then 9 wig changes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we're busy.
Yeah. It is. It's such a special show.
It really is a special show.
There is a reason that
it continues to be famous.
Yes,
it continues,
exactly.
If you Google always Patsy Cline, there are So there are hundreds of theaters doing this across the country.
Yes.
And then there's a movie coming out this fall with Patsy and Loretta Lynn, which that was a whole nother beautiful relationship.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But, it's really, it's not like a normal musical. It really draws you in. Haliey gets to go out and dance with people in the
Fun.
audience. She gets to interact. She gets them clapping. And the other thing that's really fun is that our band, there are some musicals that do this, but not many. But our band is on stage, and
they're included.
They're included as well.
included,
They
yes.
have lines. They
have
have
their
things
own
that
part,
they do. I
yes.
have to go in there and talk to and interact with them. So it is all inclusive. And I think for those 2 hours that you're there, you really feel like you are in the bar room or
Right.
in the kitchen. A gal said yesterday on the way out, I really felt like I was in that kitchen with you too. We have this beautiful, touching kitchen scene, and so where I'm at her house, and a patron said, I felt like I was right there in that kitchen with you. So it's not like where you just sit and watch and you're inundated with information and entertained. You really there's a participatory aspect, I think, that is not available in every musical.
Yes, and I do want to make it clear too. Community theater is great. Love community theater.
Fantastic.
But there's a definite quality level. I notice
Sure, it steps
when I
up.
attend these productions.
Right. This is a
Because
professional.
this is professional
It's
theater.
a professional theater, and since we're talking about it, we're usually at Central Valley High School, but I have to mention we are on tour. We're on a field trip, as our director likes to say. We're on tour to University High School, and you can see that on the play. Central Valley is getting its HVAC system, so we wouldn't have had air conditioning, and that
Right.
wouldn't have been very fun.
No.
So we are at University High School, and their air conditioning is working for the time being. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
But we will be back at Central Valley High School next summer. But so
And
don't
they
get
have
lost.
an awesome family lineup this summer. Always Patsy Cline. There's a show starting Wednesday of this week.
Wednesday through
Thursday,
Sunday.
Friday, Saturday, and they close on
Sunday
Sunday.
matinee.
But then there's also The Sound of Music coming in July and
Beautiful.
Mamma Mia in August. I mean, this is just a powerhouse.
It is a
season.
powerhouse
it's
season.
so fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like I said, it's professional theater, Broadway quality shows.
Absolutely.
It's going to be phenomenal.
Yep.
And if you don't make any of these productions, you're really, really missing out. And I truly mean that.
Season tickets are available, and you can, if you feel like you want to see it again, come and volunteer to be a front of house
Sure.
helper or an usher. There are, for Always Patsy Cline, if you do help, you get to sit on stage.
Fun.
So
Love it.
yeah, I might
I'll dance with
serenade
you.
you.
Yeah.
She might dance with you. So there's lots of incentive for you to come.
That's fun.
Yeah,
Ladies,
absolutely.
thanks for joining us.
You bet. It's our pleasure.
Break a leg
Thank
on
you.
closing weekend.
Yes. Thank you.
And I am very excited for the next 2 shows this summer. Visit SV Summer Theater. That's theater with an RE.com
Yes.
for tickets. And they're at University High School this summer. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us on the Pulse of Spokane. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
The Pulse of Spokane is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. The Pulse of Spokane is brought to you in part by Homes for You, Well-Dressed Walrus, and Spokane Firefighters Local 29. Ask the host a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.